So you're thinking about a trip to Canada. That's awesome. But then there's the visa application. It can really feel like you're trying to navigate a maze. Well, today we're going to demystify the whole process for the Canadian Temporary Resident Visa, or TRV, and break it down into a super clear, step-by-step guide.
If you've ever even glanced at the application, you know exactly what this feels like. There are endless forms, kind of confusing checklists, and all these strict requirements that can just make your head spin. It is so easy to feel totally overwhelmed before you even get started.
But you know what? It really doesn't have to be that way. Our goal here today is to cut through all that noise and just give you a clear, straightforward path you can follow from the very beginning to the very end.
I want you to think of this as your personal map. Seriously, by the end of this quick explainer, you'll see this whole complex process transform into a journey you can navigate with total confidence. Okay, ready to begin our journey? We're going to start with the absolute basics, the foundational documents that every single applicant needs to have no matter what their situation is. First up, the big government forms from IRCC, that's Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, Canada. So IMM 5257 is your main application form. Then you've got IMM 5645, which covers all your family info. And if you happen to have a representative helping you out, you'll also need IMM 5476. You know, seeing them laid out like this makes them seem a lot more manageable, doesn't it? Okay, along with those forms, you're going to need these essential items. Of course, a valid passport, a digital photo that meets the government's very specific requirements, proof that you've paid the application fees, and finally, your proof of purpose. This is just where you explain why you're visiting, so that could be an invitation letter from family or maybe a detailed itinerary for your trip. Next up, let's talk about financial readiness. You have to prove to the Canadian government that you can actually afford your trip and support yourself for the whole time you're there.
And there are actually several ways you can do this. Bank statements are pretty common, but here's a little pro tip. Officers are looking for a consistent history of funds, not a huge chunk of money that suddenly appeared yesterday. You can also use things like an employment letter that states your salary, your recent pay stubs, or even tax returns. And if someone else is sponsoring your trip, you'll need a formal letter from them plus their own financial proof.
Now we've gotten to what is arguably the most critical part of your entire application. This is where you have to convince the visa officer that you have really strong reasons to leave Canada at the end of your visit. Getting this part wrong is without a doubt the single most common reason for a refusal.
So why is this so important? I mean, it can feel a little bit personal asking for all this proof, but there is a very specific and actually logical reason behind this requirement.
It's really simple. The immigration officials just need to feel confident that you're a genuine visitor who will leave when your visa expires. And having strong ties to your home country is the absolute best evidence you can give to show them you have every intention of returning. I like to think of these ties as roots that are anchoring you to your home country. Things like having a stable job, owning property, having close family commitments like a spouse or kids, or even being enrolled in school. These are all really powerful indicators that you have a life to return to.
All right, so we've covered all the documents that absolutely everyone needs. But the application gets a lot more personal from here. The next set of documents you need depends entirely on your specific reason for traveling to Canada.
This table here breaks it down really well based on your situation. So if you're visiting family, that invitation letter and your host Canadian status are absolutely key. If you're already in Canada as a student or a worker and you're just applying for a new visa, then you'll need your current permit and a supporting letter from your school or your employer. You've done it. You've gathered every single form, every statement, and every letter. You have officially reached the final checkpoint. There are just two small but essential steps left in this whole process.
So after you submit your application online, you're not quite done. First, you'll need to visit a visa application center to give your biometrics. That's just your fingerprints and a photo. A little tip here, these are typically valid for 10 years, which is great for any future applications. Then, once you get that amazing email with the approval, you'll send in your passport to get that visa sticker officially placed inside.
And there you have it. That visa maze is now a clear map. By organizing all your documents this way, you're not just filling out forms, you're actually building a convincing story for the visa officer. So now, the only question left is, where in Canada will your journey begin?